Daniel was standing behind his front door when someone knocked 3 times. It was almost midnight. He looked through the window and froze. His older sister, Melissa, was standing outside with her 2 children and 3 large suitcases. Her face was pale, and the children looked tired and frightened. 6 months earlier, Melissa had stood in court against Daniel and supported his ex-wife, Claire. Her testimony had helped Claire win a temporary advantage in the divorce case. Melissa had called Daniel selfish, dishonest, and careless. Now she was standing at his door asking for help. Daniel opened the door only halfway. "What happened?" he asked. Melissa lowered her eyes. "She took everything from us," she whispered. "Please, Daniel, just let the kids stay here tonight." Daniel looked at his nephew and niece. He still remembered the day Melissa had betrayed him. Claire had accused Daniel of hiding money and neglecting his family. Daniel had denied every claim, but nobody seemed willing to listen. Then Melissa entered the courtroom and supported Claire. She told the judge that Daniel had always been difficult, and that she had seen him behave badly during the marriage. Those words had hurt more than anything Claire had said. Melissa was his sister. She knew him better than anyone. After the hearing, Daniel had asked her why she had done it. She had simply said, "Because Claire is telling the truth." Then she walked away. Daniel never forgot that moment. Now she was standing in his doorway like none of it had happened. "Why did you come here?" he asked. Melissa finally looked at him. "I had nowhere else to go." Daniel noticed something strange. She kept checking the street behind her. Someone was making her nervous. "Is Claire following you?" he asked. Melissa said nothing. That silence told him enough. Daniel stepped aside and let the children enter. But he did not invite Melissa to sit down. "You can stay tonight," he said. "But tomorrow, you are going to tell me everything." Melissa nodded, but her hands were shaking. As Daniel carried one suitcase inside, he noticed an envelope sticking out of the side pocket. It had his name written across it. He pulled it out. Melissa suddenly grabbed his wrist. "Daniel, don't open that." He stared at her. "Why?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Because Claire told me never to let you see it." Daniel slowly looked at the envelope again. For the first time, he wondered if his sister had not betrayed him for the reason he believed, and inside that envelope was the first clue to the truth. Daniel held the envelope tightly, but he did not open it. Melissa stood in front of him, still holding his wrist. "Please," she whispered. "Not tonight." Daniel pulled his hand away. "You walked into my courtroom and helped Claire destroy my life. You refused to explain yourself. Now you show up at my door with my name on a secret envelope and expect me not to ask questions?" Melissa looked down. "I was trying to protect my children." Daniel felt his anger rise, but he kept his voice calm. "From me?" Melissa shook her head. "No. From what Claire said would happen if I refused to help her." Daniel stared at her. Before he could ask another question, a small voice came from the hallway. His niece Emma was standing there. "Mom, can we really stay here?" Melissa quickly wiped her tears. "Yes, sweetheart." Daniel looked at the children and decided not to argue in front of them. He gave them his guest room and told Melissa she could sleep on the couch. Hours later, Daniel was still awake. The envelope sat on the kitchen table. He finally opened it. Inside was a single court document and a photograph. The photograph showed Claire meeting Melissa outside a bank 3 days before the hearing. Daniel studied the picture. Then he noticed something in Claire's hand. It was a folder with Daniel's full name on it. The court document was even stranger. It showed that Melissa had signed an agreement promising to support Claire's claims in court, but there was no money mentioned. Instead, there was a promise to protect Melissa's house from a financial claim. Daniel suddenly understood why Melissa had been afraid. Someone had made her believe her children could lose their home. But there was another page hidden behind the document. Daniel pulled it out slowly. It was a bank transfer record. Claire had sent Melissa a large payment just 2 days before the hearing. Daniel felt a cold weight settle in his chest. Melissa had told him she supported Claire because she believed Claire was telling the truth. She had never mentioned the money. Daniel walked toward the living room and almost woke her. Then he stopped. If Melissa had hidden the payment, there had to be a reason. He returned to the kitchen and looked at the photograph again. On the back, someone had written a date and 6 words. "Ask her who really owns the house." Daniel's eyes widened. The house Melissa feared losing might not belong to her at all. And if that was true, Claire's entire plan was much bigger than the divorce. Daniel waited until morning before saying anything about the note. Melissa looked exhausted when she came into the kitchen. Her children were still asleep. She saw the envelope on the table and immediately understood that Daniel had opened it. "You know now," she said quietly. Daniel nodded. "I know Claire paid you." Melissa looked away. "It was not what you think." Daniel kept his voice calm. "Then tell me what it was." Melissa sat down and began to cry. She explained that her husband had left behind a large debt before disappearing. The bank had threatened to take their house. Claire had learned about the problem and offered to help. But Claire wanted something in return. She wanted Melissa to support her in court. Melissa believed Daniel was trying to take Claire's money and leave the children with nothing. She had trusted Claire's story because Claire showed her documents and messages that seemed real. Daniel listened without interrupting. Then he asked the question that had been bothering him all night. "Why did Claire send you money?" Melissa had no answer. She only said Claire promised to protect the house. Daniel opened his laptop and showed her the bank record. The payment was not listed as help. It was marked as a business transfer. Melissa stared at the screen. "I never signed a business deal with her," she whispered. Daniel searched through the documents again. He found the name of a company connected to Claire. The same company had recently purchased a debt connected to Melissa's house. Melissa's face went pale. Claire had not saved her home. She had quietly gained control over the debt. Melissa had been protecting a house that Claire might soon own. "She used me," Melissa whispered. Daniel nodded. "And she used you against me." Melissa covered her face. For the first time, she understood how badly she had betrayed her own brother. But Daniel noticed something else. The company paperwork carried a date from 2 months before. Claire ever claimed she knew about Melissa's financial trouble. That meant Claire had known about the debt long before Melissa did. Daniel began searching through the court files. Then he found a message from Claire to an unknown number. It said, "Once Daniel loses the case, everything will fall into place." Daniel read the sentence twice. The plan was not only about winning the divorce. Claire wanted something else. And when Daniel finally opened the attachment connected to that message, he saw his own house listed in the document. He looked at Melissa and realized the betrayal had been hiding a much bigger target. Daniel stared at the document showing his house. For several seconds, he said nothing. The house was not just a place to him. It was the last thing he had managed to protect after the divorce began. Claire wanted it, but Daniel could not understand how. The court had never given her ownership of it. He called his lawyer, Mr. Harris, and sent him copies of the documents. The lawyer told Daniel not to confront Claire yet. "If these papers are real, she has been planning this for a long time," he said. "Let her think you know nothing," Daniel agreed. For the first time, he stopped trying to prove his innocence to everyone. Instead, he began collecting proof. He checked old bank statements, property records, emails, and messages. One detail kept appearing. Company connected to Claire had purchased several debts from people close to Daniel. Melissa's debt was only one of them. Then Daniel found something that made his stomach tighten. Claire had tried to transfer a claim against Daniel's house before the court hearing even happened. She had done it using information from a private document that only Daniel, Claire, and his lawyer had seen. Someone had leaked it. Daniel immediately suspected Melissa. But when he checked the date, he realized Melissa had not even received Claire's first payment yet. The leak had happened earlier. There was another person involved. Daniel called Mr. Harris again. Together, they traced the document to a former employee from Claire's legal team. The employee had recently disappeared from the company. Daniel finally understood that Claire's plan was larger than a simple family dispute. She had been building a network of debts and legal claims so she could pressure several people into doing what she wanted. Melissa had been only one piece. Daniel decided to let the evidence speak for itself. He asked Mr. Harris to prepare everything for the court and quietly request the original financial records. Meanwhile, Melissa began helping him search through old messages. She found one conversation she had forgotten. Claire had told her, "Once Daniel loses the house, you will never have to worry about your children again." Melissa suddenly started crying. She realized Claire had never promised to save her home. She had promised to save her only if Daniel lost his. Daniel looked at the message and closed his laptop. "Now we know what she wants," he said. But then his phone rang. It was Mr. Harris. His voice sounded serious. "Daniel, I found something worse. Claire has already filed a document claiming that your house belongs to her." Daniel went silent. The revenge plan had begun, but Claire had already made her next move. Daniel drove straight to Mr. Harris's office. The document Claire had filed was real, but it was based on a claim that Daniel had supposedly signed away part of his house years earlier. Daniel knew he had never signed such a paper. Mr. Harris placed the document on the desk and pointed to the signature. "Look closely." Daniel stared at it. The signature looked almost perfect, but there was one small difference. Daniel always signed his middle name. This signature did not. That gave them a reason to challenge the document. Mr. Harris immediately requested the original file and arranged for the signature to be examined. While they waited, Daniel called Melissa. He asked her to search every message Claire had sent her. Melissa found another conversation. Claire had told her to convince Daniel that the house was already lost. She had also told Melissa never to mention the bank payment. That message was exactly what Daniel needed. But then Melissa found something even more shocking. Claire had sent her a photo of a second document months earlier. It was a draft agreement showing that Claire planned to sell Daniel's house after taking control of it. Melissa had never understood what the document meant. Daniel did. Claire was not fighting for the house because she wanted a place to live. She wanted to sell it for a large profit. Daniel and Mr. Harris submitted everything through the proper legal process. Within days, Claire's story began to fall apart. The bank records showed the payments to Melissa. The messages showed Claire had coached her. The property documents showed that Claire had been planning to claim Daniel's house long before the divorce hearing. Then came the final blow. The signature expert confirmed that the signature on Claire's document had been copied from an older legal form. It was not genuine. Claire was called into a meeting with the lawyers. She arrived confident, but that confidence disappeared when she saw the evidence. "Melissa did this," Claire said quickly. Melissa looked at her in disbelief. "You told me Daniel would destroy my children's future." Claire said nothing. Daniel finally spoke. "You used my sister because you knew she loved her children. You made her afraid, and then you used that fear against both of us." Claire looked toward the door, but before she could leave, Mr. Harris placed one final file on the table. "There is one more matter," he said. Claire opened it and went completely silent. Daniel watched her face change. Whatever was inside that file could finally end everything she had built. Claire slowly opened the final file. Inside were records from the company she had used to control Melissa's debt. Mr. Harris explained that the company had already been investigated for similar deals involving other families. Claire had hidden those records during the divorce case. Now the evidence connected her directly to the false property claim and the payments made to Melissa. Claire tried to stay calm, but her hands began shaking. She blamed Melissa first, then she blamed Daniel. Finally, she admitted that she had planned to take Daniel's house and sell it. She believed the divorce would give her enough pressure to make him surrender. But she had made one mistake. She had underestimated how carefully Daniel would collect the truth. The court rejected Claire's claim against the house. The false document was removed from the case, and the financial records were sent to the proper authorities for review. Claire's control over the situation disappeared almost overnight. She could no longer threaten Daniel with the house or use Melissa against him. Melissa also faced a painful truth. She had betrayed her own brother because she believed Claire's lies. She apologized, but Daniel did not immediately forgive her. He told her that trust could not return with one conversation. Still, he refused to punish her children for what the adults had done. He helped Melissa find a safe place for her family to stay while she dealt with the financial mess Claire had created. Months later, Daniel stood outside his house and watched his niece and nephew playing in the yard. The house was still his. His name was clear. His life was finally moving forward. Melissa stood beside him. "Why did you help us?" she asked. Daniel looked at the children before answering. "Because they did not betray me." Melissa lowered her head. She understood that Daniel's revenge had never been about destroying her. He had wanted the truth to come out and had made sure Claire could never use their family against him again. Then Daniel handed Melissa the envelope she had once begged him not to open. "Keep it," he said. "You should remember what almost happened." Melissa opened it and found one final note. It was written by Daniel months earlier. It said, "When the truth comes out, everyone will have to choose who they really are. Melissa looked at him with tears in her eyes. Daniel simply walked back inside. Claire had lost her plan, her control, and her power over the family. Daniel had lost a sister he once trusted, but he had gained something more important: the freedom to live without fear of another betrayal.